So, good evening. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Norfolk Developers, hosted by myself, Alex, this evening. We shall be joined by Sheridan, talking about elevating your internal hiring processes, but I'll leave him to do his own introductions shortly. I'm going to get out of the way swiftly, but first of all, just a quick shout out to to come and join us to talk as well. If you've got a topic in mind, you want to speak about something that's, whet your appetite. Come and wet some. That's a terrible word. I can't say it with a straight face. But let's reach out to one of us. Give us a shout on Discord, email, whatever. A shout out the streams for next month. Tom Sherman will be coming along to be writing some TypeScript, but also featuring the unison language. So this is quite a confusing little mix up, but he'll be building a Visual Studio extensions for the unison language. So yeah, join us next month for that, for our Wednesday streams. Virtual Social Club, as always, on the Fridays, now on Discord. So join us 5:30 till late. We've been playing some good games of Codenames recently, which has been good fun. I forgot this slide was coming next, and I was going to do a bit of an introduction before Vicky so kindly introduced herself, but I will pass swiftly on to Vicky for an introduction to the Developer Awards. A little bit more on that in a moment. Oh, and I've noticed to say my screen sharing's been paused. It might be because I'm playing a YouTube video, I'm guessing, but I've no idea. Yeah, I can't view your screen. But one moment, sorry about it. Here we go. There we go. Is it coming back? Well, that was a calamity. Don't add a YouTube video to your Zoom screen shares, apparently. Developer Awards, anyway.com. Go there. There will be a shout out on the Twitter very shortly. Very sorry, Vicky. I will do a better job of that introduction next month. Anyway, swiftly on. Thank you very much to User Story for sponsoring our Discord and the quarterly engagement prize there, which has just reset. We are 22 days into it. Dom is already climbing up those ladders, but now's the time to get involved if you wish to. nor.dev/Discord or userstory.com. The usual shout out for sponsors. A very big thank you to our patrons that have kept the lights on. Anyway, after that calamitous introduction, I'm going to pass swiftly on to Sheridan. Thank you again, everybody.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
You can hear me. Okay, good.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, that's a shame about the Developer Awards because that's really cool. I went there a few years ago and I think they missed it out last year, so it's great that it's back on. I'm big fan, particularly with a daughter who I think would quite like this sort of thing. Then yeah, very, very exciting. Very happy with what they're doing there.
Role models.
Absolutely. So I shall get my screen shared. Tell me if this is working.
It is.
It is.
Oh, it was.
Well, that's the next slide. A blank white page. That's an exciting
Spoilers
thing.
Already.
Absolutely. So, yeah, right. Hi. Thanks for coming along. And to anyone who's watching it after, you should have come along, but no, good. I'm glad you're watching as well. So here we are. This is elevating your internal hiring processes. From a cumbersome necessity to an optimized tool that gives your company the edge. I'm quite keen to, as a recruiter, this isn't me selling my company or services at all. This is talking about how you can benefit yourself. So we're looking at the points from you have good CVs. How do you turn them into something that's doing a good job for you and your company? The white page that we spoke of. And some money.
It had to be done.
That's it. That's the end of the presentation. That is all. No, of course it's not. Of course it's not. This is not even what the talk's about. But I thought the guys from the Norfolk developers community would never forgive me if I didn't put that somewhere. So I thought, let's get that part out of the way. They'll want it, and it is important. Anyway, on to what we're really talking about. So to start with, who am I? Let's talk a little bit about me, so that you know why I may be somebody you would be interested in listening to about this stuff. So I did a bit of my history. So I studied maths and physics at the University of Cambridge, but I dropped out after a year for a career in the financial markets and as a professional poker player. And then I bummed around for a bit. You'd never guess, would you, a gambler bumming around for a bit? But that's what I did. And then I moved into algorithmic sports betting. So continuing the gambling theme. I had to end that because it turns out that when you're taking a lot of money off of all of the gambling websites online, they very quickly start to ban you. So I'm banned from every online sports betting place. And so are some of my family. Not through me, of course. And so we moved into a new career path, the sales era. Talk, love film, and for an advertising company, a magazine, a local magazine called Outlook Publishing. Yeah, I got into sales. But what I really wanted to do was work somewhere where my understanding of maths and technical, and also my newfound sales ability would turn into something far more interesting. So I've now been recruiting in the technical markets for 7 years. I started out doing mechanical, and I very quickly moved into electronic and software, which are areas that just interested me more. And that's really where you can find me now. So software and electronics. And there's my beautiful face. You can see that on LinkedIn too, and guitars in the background if you're interested in that. So my success with startups and SMEs, tends to be where I've worked. I have worked with some large organizations, some really big ones, in fact, some of the biggest in the world. But I tend to focus more on startups and SMEs because I see myself as someone who's actually a true recruitment consultant. It's a word that's bandied around a lot, and I think a lot of people call themselves recruitment consultant, and what they mean is someone who will send you CVs if you promise to pay them money if you end up hiring one of those CVs. There is a bit of a lack of skill of understanding in how you can develop companies. So what is the difference? So I advise on hiring processes. So many clients I work with have come to me because not just because they haven't been able to get the right CVs through, but because they're struggling to actually get people through to actually being hired after they're receiving them. So that's going to be a key focus of this talk today. Advising on interview fitness for purpose. Again, we're going to go into that a bit today. That's not really going to be the core part of it, but it is a very important part in your own hiring process to get right. Resourcing talent. This is the bit that everyone knows, recruitment consultant. Before we go out, we find people and we send them to you, and that's not something I'm going to be talking about today. There are plenty of other ways of doing it as well. There's some great internal ways that you can utilize. And market research and feedback. Again, this isn't something that I'm going to be talking about today. This is a consultancy part of what I do. This is providing companies with detailed analysis of the markets that they're working in to understand why they may not be getting good candidates and what they can do to accelerate the number of candidates coming in. So yeah, I'm not going to go into too much detail about that. It's a thing for a separate day. what we're focusing on are really the top point here and a bit of the second point. So into the meat of it. To be able to fix the problems, you need to know what the problems may be. So to be able to optimize, we need to know where the pain points are. Turn your pitfalls into opportunity. The reason that's there is because most companies have the same problems. So if you can take those pain points away, then you're beating the competition. You're hiring the best people. So turn it into opportunity. So the first pain point, candidates pull out. You got the good CV, they never get to offer. They've gone somewhere else. Or they reject your offer. Arguably much worse, because then you've wasted a lot of time interviewing them and getting excited about this possible new hire. Time cost per interview. If you're spending huge amounts of time on every single person that comes through the door, that adds up. If you can reduce that without affecting your results, great. And the last one is selecting inappropriate employees. People who, they may look great on paper, they may leave within 3 months. That was an inappropriate hire, or they may not be good enough for the job. So we'll look at the first part. Why candidates withdraw? Now, top line there, 60% of candidates withdraw because the process took too long. SHRM is the website that data has come from. The reasons candidates can withdraw, they've accepted another offer. These next three come together because they're quite similar. Unexpected changes or delays, company indecisiveness or disorganization, and a complicated interview process. These are all things that make your company look messy. Like you don't quite know what you're doing. That's not appealing to people. Not only that, but if there are unexpected delays, it may mean that a candidate accepts another offer. So it ties into other things as well. If you're indecisive, you may not offer them quickly enough. And at the very least, they're going to be off put because you're not moving quickly enough, and it doesn't seem like you know if you really want them to work there. The next two, again, two things in a similar domain, similar area. No rapport with the interviewers, and company lacks enthusiasm. If you're not excited about your company and your product, why on earth would they be? And if they're not choosing to work for you. And if there's no rapport with the interviewers, who wants to work somewhere where they don't enjoy the idea of working with the people that are there? And the enthusiasm thing ties back into the people themselves as well. If you're not enthusiastic about that person, are they really sure that you're the right company to work for? And the last one there is not interested in the opportunity. There's not really a lot you can do about that. But you shouldn't be interviewing those people at second, third stage. You should be getting that information out quickly, moving on, and accepting that whilst they may be your dream candidate, you're not their dream company. So find somebody that's a better match. Most of these are solved when you're organized and prompt. And looking into all those, time fixes a lot of things, organization fixes a lot of things. On the time part, I'm going to tell you a little story about my family and my wife. So my wife once interviewed for the NHS. It was a job that she was really excited about. It offered a bit more flexibility, it offered a bit more money. It was a slightly better location, but most importantly, it was something that she felt was going to make a real difference to the world, and it would give her more job satisfaction. So she was thrilled. She interviewed there, it went really well. She had a second interview, it went really well. And finally, they made her a job offer. And she rejected it. Sounds a bit silly. If your hiring process takes longer than making a baby, it may be a bit too long. And that's genuinely what happened. We were trying, we wanted a baby, but it hadn't happened. And so she was looking for work. By the time she was made her job offer, we had scans back. this was, it was far beyond the point that she could move on. So this is my family as well, my daughter, my little boy, my wife, and me. Don't make that mistake. Genuinely, get a move on. So a few numbers for you, some stats. 67% of hiring managers cite lack of talent as the main obstacle to their hiring. And this number again, 60% of candidates cite length of interview process as the reason for withdrawal. Now, there is something wrong with these two numbers. They don't quite add up. If 67% of hiring managers would get a move on with their hiring processes, perhaps they wouldn't have the problem of lack of talent. Often they think that's the problem, but often the real problem is actually getting those candidates through that are good to actually being hired. 24 days is the average length of the interview across all industries. That's too long for most industries. There's no reason for that, and you're losing people because of that. 41 days is the average length of interview for a software engineer. Now, some of that is exacerbated a little because of people like Google and ARM and Microsoft who decide to keep people through 85 interviews over a 4-year period. But the fact remains, most of the people who are listening to this are going to be looking at running small companies. And the benefit you have is that you are agile. A bad word to use in the software development community, I guess, but you can beat these people. So yeah, you might not have the financial clout of Microsoft, but if they're going to take 2 months to hire somebody and somebody really wants to leave their current role, they're excited about you and you get them through the door in 8 days, Microsoft haven't got a chance because they haven't even got them into the first interview yet. So use this to your advantage. And 48% of people apply to 6 or more companies per application round. So you need to remember this when thinking about your candidate. When you get that perfect candidate through the door, they have other opportunities. You aren't the only thing out there. And don't fall into the trap of thinking, well, if they really like us, they'll pick us. That might be the case, but I've got plenty of examples where a candidate has said to me that their favorite company is my client. And my client has not listened and they've not decided to move quickly and they've wasted a lot of time. And that candidate has gone to their second favorite or third favorite because they felt that things were moving along more quickly. So there's competition out there. So you need to get this stuff right. So how do you keep candidates interested? Design your process before inviting applicants and tell them the entire process right away. So this removes the disorganization. It removes a lot of the time planning problems because you know exactly what you're going to be doing at each stage of the interview, and tell the candidates what's happening, and then you can get away with a little bit more. There are some clients I have who have interviews where they've got a first, they've got a second, and then there's a technical test, which can be upwards of 6 hours. Then they have a technical interview, then they have a conversation with the CEO. I would argue that this is not a good process to start with, and this does need to be looked at. But if you tell the candidate that from day one, at least they know what to expect. If they don't know that until later on and suddenly you drop a 6-hour coding test. Imagine you've had a 1-hour conversation, you've had a bit of a technical chat, and you think this is going pretty well, and somebody drops you an email, hey, can you do this 12-hour coding test? Sorry, what? It's not going to go well. So make sure candidates are fully aware of all of the things in the process right away. They can possibly, if there are objections there, you can get rid of them quickly. But be flexible as well. So whilst you've planned your entire process, at times that process isn't going to work. If you have been struggling to find the right candidate for 3 months, and then suddenly a candidate appears, and you find out that they've got a final interview on Thursday, and it's Tuesday, do you know what? You probably need to start thinking about kicking your process out the door. You haven't had anyone else. You need to get this person in today, if you can, in the evening. If you've got a 3-stage process, drop it into 2, get them interviewed the next day, get an offer out by Thursday, and make sure that you're in the race. So plan for known delays, ensure candidates know about them, and build in contingency. So if you're starting a hiring process today, and you know that the key person who's going to be making decisions and part of the interview process is going on holiday for 2 months at the start of August, sorry, 2 weeks or 2 months, sure, 2 months is worse, but 2 weeks at the start of August, at very minimum, let your candidates know. Otherwise, they're going to get upset with the delays and think that you're not serious about them. In that scenario, honestly, I'd argue you should wait. You don't even start the hiring process until that critical person is back, or you build in a contingency where you can keep the hiring process going and maybe they just do a quick last minute interview at the end. Set time targets for candidate feedback. If you're a candidate and you've interviewed, honestly, you deserve feedback within 24 hours. If you've been invited to an interview and you don't respond as a candidate within 24 hours, people question you. And honestly, if you're a company and you're not doing the same thing, then you should be being questioned. Get candidate feedback out within 24 hours, good and bad. If it's good, great. They want to know, they want to move forwards. If it's bad, you need to let them know, partly because that's the right thing to do and because it's fair and they put an effort into you. But also, if you're not doing that, that's then bad for your employee brand image. So set time targets and keep to them. Be enthusiastic. This is enthusiasm about your company and about the candidate. I touched on this earlier. If you're not excited about the person, they're going to wonder if you really want them to work there or if the environment is going to be interesting for them. And if you're not enthusiastic about your product, it's very unlikely that they're going to be interested in working there. It's going to be questionable. You can have an amazing product on paper and you're not enthusiastic about it. That's something doesn't add up, and people aren't. It's going to be confusing, and people aren't going to want to be involved with that. But you can have a product that seems particularly boring on paper. Like maybe you have maybe you make an industrial printer that prints cables at 300 meters per second. It sounds really dull, but so what is there to be enthusiastic about that? Well, actually, some of the maths that goes into that is really ridiculous, because being able to print everything so it comes out legibly at that sort of speed, in the exact right place, you're running some really difficult calculations there. So actually, yes, it is still interesting, but for different reasons. So be enthusiastic and explain to people why you're enthusiastic about working there. It doesn't have to be about the product. It can be about the place. It could be the fact that, I'm making this very software centric. I know that there are some people out there who aren't in software as well, but this all sort of ties into exactly what you're doing, and just make it about you and not about software. But like in software, it might be the idea that you get autonomy on how to solve the problems. It might be that you get to choose the working environment into something that you're more comfortable with, or maybe you can use the latest version of C++ if you want, or you can switch back to C++11 if you think that's a more suitable thing. That gives people the feeling of autonomy. And anyway, be enthusiastic about why you're enthusiastic. Ask your employees why they're enthusiastic, and tell everyone about it. Shout about it. And build rapport. This has all pretty much been covered in the last 30 seconds, so I'll move straight on from that. But build rapport with them. Be friends with them. Don't be scared to make a joke. Be professional, but you're not there. Like, don't be these guys who you see on The Apprentice. That's what I'm thinking of, where they're hammering these people with questions. You do that, candidate's gone. Any good candidate is gone immediately. You're not good enough to do that. You're not running Microsoft, and you're not hiring a £1 million a year CEO. So don't think about it. Build rapport. And this I wasn't sure whether to put this bullet point in here, but I decided to in the end. Qualify every stage, because it's such a critical thing. We've been talking about keeping candidates interested the whole way, but you need to qualify their motivations. The very worst thing to do is to keep somebody interested and motivated when they're never going to accept your job. So if they've been saying to you from day one, we're only going to do remote working, I only want to do remote working, and you're like, okay, we'll talk about it, we'll think about it, but you're never going to offer it, be upfront at the start. You're wasting their time, you're wasting your own time. So qualify them at every stage. Understand what their motivations are. Can your company offer what it is they want? And if If you can't talk to them about it and say, look, we can't offer that. Is that a deal breaker? And if it is, they're never going to accept your offer anyway. So don't worry about that. So moving on from that, that's why candidates were withdrawing. Now why offers are rejected. I really like this guy's jumper, by the way, which is why I chose this picture. So why are offers rejected? Number one, all the reasons they may have withdrawn in the first place. Now, if you're getting to offer stage and one of those reasons is the reason they may withdraw, you would have hoped they would withdrawn earlier, but they won't always. So get that stuff right, because this is where that really hurts. Because you put a lot of time in by this point. Remuneration, mismatch of salary. If you're not offering them the right salary at this point, you've messed up, and it's your fault. No one else's fault. It's your fault. You should have firstly told them what you're willing to offer at the start. You should have found out what they're willing to accept. If you're only willing to offer, I'm going to use ridiculous numbers here, but like if you're $500,000, if you're only willing to offer $500,000 and they want $1 million, they're never going to accept. But also, I mean, looking at more realistic numbers, if you're only willing to offer 40,000 and they offer 70,000, then you have to think to yourself, can I get to 70,000? Don't think, will they accept 60? Because then they'll leave anyway. They're not going to be happy. Don't be ridiculous. They want 70, deal with it. And if you can afford that, great. And interview them like a 70K candidate. The problem with this seems to be this thing which a lot of people think, we'll leave that to the end and we'll talk about money at the end. What the most ridiculous concept I've ever heard in my life. Even if you're not that worried about money, even if you can afford anywhere from 20 grand to 100 grand and you're okay with it, if you think this person's a 45K candidate and they want 80 and you interview them like a 45K candidate, well, how the hell do you know if they are going to be able to perform the tasks that you need an 80K person to deliver? You have no idea. You need to adjust your interview accordingly. So get that right. Find out what they want early. And if you're happy with it, there should be no problem with that. So next part, undefined acceptance boundary. We're talking about timescales here. So if you make an offer, put a limit on it. If it's Tuesday, say you have to give us an answer by Friday. You are not looking to pressure the person into making your decision. You don't want to pressure the person. You want them to make the decision that they're happy with. But honestly, if they can't make that decision in 3 days, what it means is they're not excited by you and they don't want to accept your offer. So don't have this fear of loss where you think you may have kept them, you wouldn't have done. The downside to this as well is that there is actually a business case for it, because if you're leaving it for 3 weeks, well, that means you're not hiring other people, that you're increasing the likelihood that they're going to reject, and you're not progressing with other people who you could actually get through the door, who are able to do the job. Also, you leave it unbounded. It means they're applying to new places, new things are coming in. You're reducing your own chances of getting them on board. So set a time. I'm going to talk a bit more about that later, because there are other things you can do which are maybe even better than that, but we'll leave it at that for now. Offer underpresented. So you need to tie the offer into what their motivations are. So this is going back to the qualifying, thinking about what it is that they want and talking about that when you make the offer. If they said to you that that what they want is progression, they want good training budgets, they want to be able to learn new skills, and that's something you can offer. When you're making the offer, talk about that stuff, remind them of that stuff, tell them that this is what we can offer you. If they've said to you, honestly, I'm tired of trying to get all this progression, I just want to sit back and I just want to code for a few years and not think about it. You start talking about progression, they're just going to be off put by that. So, but this should be genuine stuff as well. I'm not saying make it up. This is, are you genuinely able to do this? And make sure the candidate knows that you're able to offer what it is they want. Well, I've probably meant to have spoken about a lot more of this stuff on this slide, so I'll probably whip through this one fairly quickly. Yeah, get your offers accepted. Now, this is the bit I was talking about. Know if your offer will be accepted before making it. This is a bit dark art stuff here, guys. A lot of people don't know this. This is something that will be new to a lot of you, and the ones who know it will be like, yeah, of course, this is the gold standard. If you don't know if your offer is going to be accepted before making it, think to yourself, why do you not know that? Does it tick all their boxes? Does it motivate them in every way? Does your company excite them? Are you able to offer them the right money? If the answer to all these things is yes, there's absolutely no reason they would reject your offer. So if you don't know if your offer is going to be accepted, you need to think why you don't know that. And once you've thought to yourself, why do I not know this? You need to go back and have a chat to the candidate and think, okay, are we on the same page here? And then you'll get to the point where you do know if the offer will be accepted before making it. Define timeframes for acceptance or gain commitment. So I spoke earlier about defining timeframes for acceptance. Again, a bit of dark art stuff here. Gain commitment before you even make the offer. Again, this is not a pressuring thing. This is final conversation. Hey, Sandra, it looks like I'm really excited talking to you. I've really enjoyed talking to you. I think you'd actually be a really good fit for the team. I think we can offer you the progression opportunities that you're looking for. You said at the start that you're looking for 45K. We're happy to match that. We'll give you 45K. If we go out and get you 45K, are you going to accept it, or are you going to think about it or reject it? Where's your mind at the moment? Sandra hopefully comes back at this point and says, "Oh, absolutely, I'll accept it." And you then say, just don't just take them with their word for it, because they're in an interview. You know, they may be trying to say what you want to hear. Go a bit further and say, "Okay, cool. I just want to clarify this because I'm about to go out and chat to my CEO or my HR manager or whoever it is and tell them this. And so this could be the thing that gets me to actually get you the offer." I'm going to look like a right plank if you then turn around. So just, are you sure? Are you sure? Because if you're not, fine, we'll talk about it more. Yeah, gain that commitment before. But the good thing about this is not, again, not to pressure them, but what this does is it allows people to think to themselves, okay, yeah, I'm not sure. And if they're not sure, this is your chance to find out why. And that's the reason for all this. It's to find out if they're really sure about you. And if you're not sure about you, find out why. What is it what is it that's missing at this point? And it might be something simple that they've misunderstood. Maybe they think there's no training budget, but there is. Maybe they thought they were going to have to work in the office 4 days a week, but actually it's 2. Maybe they don't realize that they'll be able to leave on a Friday at 4 o'clock because they need to pick up their kids, but they can. It might be simple, but it might be something that's impossible to get around, and then you need to accept that and move on. Again, match your offer to candidate motivations. So all the stuff I was saying before, talk about what it is they want. And remind the candidate why you're excited to be hiring them as a person, not just as a resource. People want to know they're useful, so do remind them that they are a useful resource and that their skills will be used. But they also want to think that they're being hired because the team actually want them there. So remind them of that stuff and talk about why they like them and how they feel they'd actually gel with the team. And don't delay. If you've made your decision, you think this is the right person, get an offer out. Do it now. Why do it tomorrow? The only thing you do by tomorrow is possibly someone's going to go out there and make another offer to them, and you may miss out. And honestly, it might be that they're juggling these two things and they think, don't know which is best, but these people over here were more excited about me. They'll accept that offer. So don't delay. And don't under offer. Just, oh God. If you do that, just turn the call off right now. Don't need you. Anyway, one thing, actually, sorry, I'm going to go back. One thing about it, because it really irritates me with under offering. If somebody said they wanted 45K and you offer them 40, it's insulting. And if you then come back and say, okay, fine, we'll give you 45, I hope they reject your offer, because they should, because you've insulted them. You're not the right company to work for. You need to fix that. Anyway, don't do it. Don't do it. So anyway, are your interviews fit for purpose? This is, as I said at the start, these are a couple of things I wanted to touch on. I'm not going to go into huge amounts of detail for here, but we're combining this to selecting the right candidates and also optimizing hiring manager time. So selecting the right candidates. I'm just going to see that picture there. I wanted to get that picture in because I just love chess and I love the robot playing it. And I thought this was the only place I could get it in. So I hope you guys appreciate that. Define your need first. So from day one, before you start your interviewing process, you need to define what it is you need. If you start changing it later on down the line, who knows what you're going to end up with by the end of the process. And the chance that they're going to be unskilled for the role you want is a lot higher when you don't know what it is you want. Thorough testing that doesn't off-put. Again, you need to make sure that you know that they're going to be able to do the job. But if you're putting them through 5, 6 interviews, multiple hours of tests, people don't want that. They're going to go somewhere else. So at that point, you don't get the opportunity to select the right candidate then because they've gone. Again, select by motivations. So if you've got somebody who lives 3 hours away, and I don't know, like whatever it is, if you've got somebody who says, no, I really need flexible working hours, and you say to them that you're going to give them flexible working hours, and you know full well you're not going to, the candidate's going to leave in 3 months anyway. You're not going to keep them. And if anything, you're just going to ruin your employer brand. So you need, again, this all back. It's quite tempting for some employers to see these perfect CVs and think, oh God, this is so close to what we want. But if their motivations aren't aligned with what you can offer, then it's irrelevant. They are just as useful to you as the candidate who has never touched a single line of code in their life, or whatever industry you're working in. They're useless. They're fantastic. Yeah, you're right. They're fantastic, and it's a shame. But move on. Gain multiple perspectives, and listen as well. Listen to the people that you're gaining perspectives from. There were some, I forgot the exact numbers now, but it was something like if there was one person making all the hiring decisions, they'd only get it right like 60-70% of the time. When it was up to 5 people, there was like 99%. I mean, I didn't particularly trust the numbers, to be honest, so I didn't add them. But it's true that you need to gain perspective from people, and not so it might be you're like a team leader who's more technical, and then maybe an HR manager who is not, or maybe you don't have an HR manager. Maybe you've got a member of the team who's just a particularly friendly person, and you just want to get their point of view. Like, are they going to gel? Get different perspectives from different people who have different skill sets. Look for the right person, not the perfect person. Just remember that selecting the right person is also about actually making the hire. And if you're sitting there waiting for some unicorn who ticks every single one of your boxes, where actually you could probably train one of those skills in a couple of weeks and get them up to speed, just look for the right person who's competent and gels. And that's when you select the right person. And accept that you may get it wrong. I mean, that you will get it wrong sometimes. You won't always get it perfectly right. All of these things will mean that you'll get it right almost every time, but every now and then you won't. And if you worry about that completely during the hiring process, it's like a rabbit in the headlights. You won't move, you won't get anything done, you won't make any hires, because the perfect candidate pretty much doesn't exist. The next part is cutting down internal time cost. So disqualify early. Technical and motivation. Your first interaction with people should be understanding their motivations quickly. I mean, this can be done in half an hour on the first phone call. So in your first phone call, you need to be finding out, are you motivated by what we have to offer? And ask them first. Don't say this is what we have to offer, but are you motivated by it? Because they're in an interview, they want a job, and they might say, yes, I am. Ask them what their motivations are, find out what it is they really want to get out of their career, and figure out, can you offer that? And if you can't, move on. And also disqualify technically. It doesn't have to be really detailed stuff, but just ask them a couple of basic questions about what it is they can bring to the party technically. And you'll get enough of a gauge as to whether or not it's worth proceeding at that point. Don't spend 30 hours don't spend 30 hours if 30 minutes works. That's definitely true. Or don't spend 2 hours if this is a balancing act, to be honest with you. Yeah, you don't have to spend huge amounts of time. So when it comes to technical interviews, I often have people giving 2-hour technical interviews, and it's always the same. Everyone always knew whether the person was technically capable or not within half an hour. The rest of it was just asking them more questions about similar stuff. You knew, and you knew as well. The reason it's a bit of a balancing act is because of what I said before about building rapport. You do need to make sure you spend enough time with these people to find out if these are people that you could really work with and enjoy working with. So I'm not suggesting make all your interviews 30 minutes, but maybe make it an hour. Make sure you spend enough time to figure that stuff out. So get the balancing right. Limit the number of interviews. There's very few companies that should be giving 4 interviews or more, and it should really only be served for very, very high powered senior roles. This has changed a little since the advent of, well, not advent, but the popularity boom in Zoom and online remote interviews. There's a balancing act here again. You may need multiple people to be talking to them, and these can be split up into multiple batches of half an hour. And actually, it's probably the same as you would have done when you were inviting people into the office, where you may have done an interview at the start with 2 people and then an interview afterwards with 4 people, and now it's split up into a few half an hour slots. But the point is, you don't want to have 8 hours worth of interviews. You want to keep it relatively short. When you do have those interviews blocked out into various different things and have half an hour here, half an hour there, again, as long as you told candidates that's what's happening and there's a reason for it, and partly because you don't want them tired on Zoom because it's exhausting in comparison to face-to-face, they'll be okay with it. So yeah, appropriate people conducting every hiring phase. I'm going to use an example here. So I recently spoke to somebody who is a CTO. I'm hoping, well, actually, he said he's going to be watching this, so I don't know if he's here yet, but hi. Hope you don't mind me using this example. I'm not going to say who it is, but he's a CTO, and he's been getting CVs in. He had 30 CVs from Indeed. It's not the CTO. Don't do that if you're the CTO. There's a better person, at least to sort of look over them originally and go, okay, look, these people, I don't know what they're applying for. There's going to be somebody in your company who can do that, who has not got the time cost of a CTO is higher than the time cost of everyone else. Yeah, I mean, that's actually something that I do for some of my clients who, when we work on like a retained or an engagement fee basis, like we actually take some of their applications and we'll run through that with them, and it's not very costly because I do it all the time. But yeah, then there may be a particular recruiter you work with could do it. It may be there's somebody who is a more junior person could do it. And again, what you don't want is having the most senior people, the most costly people interviewing at every point, and then it ends up wasting a lot of resource. And don't lose candidates. This is the brutal one. Actually, there's 2 ways of this. So again, don't lose candidates, and part of this is don't have candidates in the final stage who aren't appropriate. If you're getting candidates through to the final interview stage and then they're accepting other people's offers or they're withdrawing, you are wasting huge amounts of time there. To get the rest of it right and don't lose them. You've seen this number before, haven't you? This is the 3rd time I'm bringing this number up because it is absolutely the most important. If there's one thing you're going to take away from this talk, it's going to be this number. 60% of candidates dropped out because the interview process took too long. Don't let that happen. So thanks for watching. Thanks to Nordev for having me on. Yeah, look forward to hopefully some interesting questions in the Q&A. And if you want to ask any questions about anything else, I mean, my email address is there. Yeah, get in touch, whatever. I'm happy. You don't have to use me as a recruiter, by the way, for me to be interested in answering your questions. I'm happy to just help out. So just get in touch.
Always feels strange, like, kind of clapping at the end of
an individual clap.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. That was very interesting. I mean, I haven't personally, of course, seen this process very much myself from perhaps this angle. So it's quite interesting to see how many of those things perhaps would be off-putting for me as on the other hand of that.
I think also you're a contractor, aren't you?
No, I did a bit of the employment game early on. Yeah, and I've done a fair few interviews in my time.
Yeah.
Nothing too long, which is I'm thankful for, and none of these kind of third stage, fourth stage interviews that people seem to do these days with remote, particularly the larger remote companies. Anyway.
Yeah.
I was going to say actually about that. There was been seeing trends recently. There's I've got a friend going through the process, but for basically like offering different types of technical tests. So whether that be like pair programming or a test, or like perhaps a take-home project. Do you have any kind of advice around kind of generalizing the output of a test to a certain extent?
So it depends to some extent on the client, on you as a company, and what it is you need the person to do. So you need to make it may be that you don't have a one size fits all approach. So if you're looking for somebody who's going to be coming in as a junior, they don't need to do a long coding test. It's not going to, so actually I'll start from the other side. So if you're looking for like a senior principal person who's going to be involved with clients and things as well, then yes, you need to know whether or not just if their code can work and if they understand the stuff behind it, but you need to know if their code is going to be clean, and if when they show it to clients it's going to make sense, and if they're going to know where to put the tests and how everything is going to work together, so that somebody else can then come and work on it later on with the documentation. Like, this stuff all matters at senior and principal level. So maybe for those people, you are giving them a slightly more detailed test. For a junior person, absolutely not. Like, of course they don't know this stuff, so why even ask them? And maybe get them to do something like pair programming is much better. I'm a big fan of pair programming. I'm assuming most people know who it is, but I think there's a lot of people who aren't necessarily in software as well. So what pair programming is well, you can explain it if you want, Alex.
No.
Okay, cool. So basically, pair programming is very simple. It means that you are going to sit there nowadays, probably on Zoom or Google or something, and the employer is going to sit there also doing it, and you work on a problem together. And actually, some of the clients I've got will not even tell the internal employee what the problem is. So they genuinely work on something completely new together. And the reason this stuff is really cool is because real world coding is not about sitting there with a million things in your head and you're like creating all this crazy stuff, like tapping away at a million miles an hour. It's going, what? I have no idea how to do that. Google knows, and Googling it, and you work through this stuff together. And I'm a big fan of that. I think it's really good because it does show how you can work together as a team, how you can take ideas on, how you can take something you don't know. And the ones I really don't like are where you've got a technical test where somebody comes back to me and says, we're going to reject them because they didn't have any experience of an insert arbitrary thing here. And then I speak to the candidate and they go, well, yeah, but I'd have Googled it and I'd know in 8 minutes or less. And of course they would. So why not give them the chance?
Yeah, that's why I take umbrance to a certain extent with just the classic just tests, 30 questions almost, on a, there's a few services that will do it. Say you want to test a front ender or you want to test a back ender, and it'll produce 30 questions that will test that person, and then it will give you a score. And I'm like, what is that really tested? We've had a question.
I don't think
Question in from the YouTubes from Pramjit. Thanks for your talk. He says, do you think it's a risk to offer less than the person's last job but they accept because they love the company. What's your experience? Do they stay?
Yeah.
Would you offer or move on?
100%, 100%. It's it doesn't matter what their last job was, is what I think you need to remove your thought from what they were earning and think about what do they want to earn. So I'm just going to use an example here. I placed somebody who was on 120,000 plus benefits, and they accepted a job offer at 65,000 without any real benefits. And the reason was that they were going to be working on a product that cured cancer. And they were sick of the high-powered job. They were working 60 hours a week. They weren't seeing their family. This was going to give them flexibility. It was going to let them see their family, and they were going to get to cure cancer. I mean, they'd paid off their mortgage. Like, it's what you. So what you need to think is not be money focused as a recruiter. It does matter, but it's the motivations that matter. So if somebody comes to you and they says, "Well, yeah, I was on 65K in my last job." Most people won't do that massive drop, by the way, but I'm on 65. I'm really bored. It's so dull and toxic environment. I just want somewhere I can enjoy. At that point, my question normally is, okay, well, I don't want to eliminate companies for you. We can stick to 65K if you want. But what is it that you're really interested in, and what would you be willing to give up for that? And sometimes I'll say, oh, I don't know, I'll take 45, to be honest. And that's what you go with. The one thing I would urge to avoid as an employer there is, again, taking advantage. So if somebody's on 65 and you know that they're happy just to get out because they love your company, and you then try and offer them 45 because of that, I don't think that's okay. I also think that at that point they probably will end up moving, because it says something about your culture to start with, but also somebody's going to come along with a really cool opportunity that's 65K again at some point. So don't be too money focused, but you need to think about what their motivations are.
Yeah, and that comes back to what you were saying earlier about identifying what exactly their motives are, right? It's what their goals are, why they're actually looking to move. What is it about their current role that's just not really that satisfying? Like you say, the culture is a big driver, especially when you get onto those perhaps larger fees.
And I think particularly in today's world with remote working and things, like, plenty of people they'll list different numbers anyway. They'll say, okay, well, I've got somebody interviewing somewhere at the moment. I'm not going to give you any details, of course, but
yeah,
they are currently on 65 and they are interviewing for a role at 45. And the reason for that is that they want to move into data science, and they've got experience of, I think they're sort of a bit of PHP and Android, I think, is what they've been doing. But they want to move into data science and Python, and it's like, they accept they're going to have to take that step back. So yeah, we can be remote working. There's so many things out there. So it's get to the bottom of what the person really wants.
With remote working, it's becoming a thing that you're actually competing with a global market now, right? Yeah, parameters. That's really interesting. Thanks for the answer. So yeah, if there are any other questions from the YouTubes, give us a shout now in the chats, and same to Zoom. Although I can't see Zoom chat. Stephen's got a request for you, Sheridan, which is that foobarrecruit.com/vacancies allowed you to filter the vacancies.
Oh, really? Well, that would involve people going to my website. No one's going to my website unless I direct them there, to be honest. The only time anyone goes to my website when I haven't directed them there is because they've seen a vacancy that I've got and they think, I'm going to go and apply directly on his website so that it looks like I'm more interested. It's,
and then they suddenly realize they can't filter the page, so they go back to where
probably. I don't even keep it updated. It just makes it, I don't know, it's one of those things. I'm sure this happens in most industries. You've got a website to show that you're legitimate and that you're really a company, and no one wants that. But if you want to do it, actually, Stephen, I'll let you do it. You can code that, can't you? I'll give you access to the WordPress, and you can do it.
There you go, Stephen. You're both on the Discord, so I'm sure you can chat about it.
Yeah.
Some thanks from Priscilla as well, and Will says came via late, but he's here. So yeah, thanks for dropping by. But yeah, I'm probably going to kick the YouTubers off.
Give a shout out to Priscilla as well. So she's actually just started Foobar Recruitment, and
cool.
She's amazing. Like, yeah, I think she's somebody who you would envy. Anyone would be lucky to have Priscilla on board. She's making a real difference. She's doing a lot of stuff that I haven't had time to do, and she's doing a great job. So yeah, I just want to give a shout out to her. So yeah, thanks for coming, Priscilla.
Well, yeah. Cool. All right. Well, yeah, I'm going to disconnect the YouTubes, and thank you for joining us this evening. And obviously, you've got to do the whole like and subscribe. You've got to like and subscribe the videos. Right. I'm hitting that button anyway. Bye-bye. There we go.